I am now ready to put the e-flite Conscendo Evolution 1.5 m sport glider in the air. Now, I've had this for a while now, but I wanted to wait until I became a little more comfortable with these sport gliders because they're new to me. So I have flown 2 of them so far. I don't have a lot of flights on them yet. You know, maybe 10 flights between the 2, maybe not even that. But I've become a lot more familiar with them in that 8 to 10 flights that I've got on 2 sport gliders now. So I wanted to wait until I got some practice in on a couple of other airframes, sport gliders, before I put this one in the air. And there's a reason for that. I had someone a while back that wanted to see ground control review this sport glider, and it just wasn't in my budget. You know, we have a very small budget, and it wasn't in my budget. So this individual donated funds to purchase this sport glider to make this review happen. So I do not want to screw it up. So the reason that we are reviewing the Conscendo Evolution 1.5 m sport glider is because of him, because without his financial support on this review, we wouldn't have been able to pull the trigger on it. So I am very, very humbled by his generosity, and I am absolutely humbled by the fact that he wanted us to do a review on this plane. So he's responsible for this review. Without him, this review would not happen. If anything bad happens out there, if I screw this up, it's all on me. This is going to be the maiden flight of this glider. Now, I have everything set up according to the manual. It comes with a very nice manual with a lot of great information in it. Okay, so it gives you the recommended expo. It gives you the recommended control surface deflection. So I went with the high rate settings as specified in the manual. So the ailerons have 15 millimeters of movement up and down. The elevator has 10 millimeter of movement up and down. The rudder has 18 millimeter movement side to side. Okay, and then for higher rate on their expo, they have the ailerons set for 10%, the elevator for 15%, and the rudder for 10%. Well, those seem awful low to me for smooth control surface movement, for smooth maneuvers on a plane. So I didn't go with their recommended expo. On the ailerons, I have 35%, the elevator 35%, 25% on the rudder. So we will see how that goes. I'm not flying this with a Spectrum transmitter, but it does have this is the bind and fly version, so it has an AS3X receiver in it with safe select, safe mode. Well, I got that program into my RadioMaster TX16S. Now, I don't have a way of programming this gyro with the TX16S, but I was able to bind to it. I was able to check the gyro in AS3X mode, which I think is just a 3-axis gyro mode. So I tested it, and all the control surfaces are correcting in the proper direction that they should be. I set up a switch to put it into safe mode should I need to. I guess that's kind of a get out of jail free card. So I have that set up on a switch, and I tested that, and that does work. So if I hold the plane upside down, the ailerons are both fully deflected to roll it back over. So I know that the safe select is working properly. I have never flown a larger plane with a gyro in it. If you guys watch my videos, even the nano and the micro planes that I have, if they have gyros in them and you can put them in manual mode, then I typically fly them in manual mode about 90% of the time. So that's also going to be new for me. I have never flown a larger plane with a gyro in it before. So this is going to be a first as well. And I have extended the landing skids on it, and I'm going to be, to keep it up off of the rocks, that hard pack, I have put wing protectors on the ends of the wings. The the decals that were not pre-applied on the bottom of the wing, all the decals on the top and on the side of the fuselage were pre-applied, but not the ones that go on the bottom. I don't know why that is, but I put all the decals on the bottom, anything that's going to help me maintain orientation on the plane, you know what I mean? So I'm going to be flying it, and on the maiden flight with a 3S LiPo. You can fly this with a 3S or a 4S LiPo. So if we are successful on our maiden flight and it comes back in one piece, then I will go over a couple build issues, or assembly issues that I ran into, what adjustments I may make before the next flight session, and and then I also measured the amp draw on 3S and 4S, because I am gonna put a 4S LiPo in this if this turns out well. Today it's just going to be a 3S though. So anyway, I will meet you out of the field. We will throw it into the air. Hopefully everything will go splendidly. It will come back in one piece, and then I'll go over the rest of the information with you. So I will see you out of the field.
Okay folks, I have the Conscendo Evolution 1.5 meter sport glider out here for it is maiden flight. I have it in AS3X mode. I have a 3S 2200 milliamp hour 25C LiPo in it, and I have the CG balanced in the mid-range of the specified CG. We've got wind out here this morning of 4 to 6. Let me get down here into this dirt lane. At least the wind's not coming directly out of the sun this morning, which is good. Had some company out here. I had to wait on a balloon crew and a jogger. Okay. So, are we ready? Alright, let's launch it. Took off nicely. Put about 70% throttle on it. Just wanted to check out the elevator. Got power off. Walk to the far side of this lane so I do not hit my truck. I still have power off. Gain a little altitude. Oh yeah. Whoa. That's got some power even on 3S. Okay, so let's check out the roll rate on it, eh? Not bad at all. This is high rates. Now I do have my expo set a little bit higher. I do have my expo set a little bit higher than the recommended expo, because I wanted to make sure it wasn't twitchy with high rates. And it's not, so I may actually dial that down some. I've got my timer set for 5 minutes. Oh man. That definitely has some power on 3S. Ooh, watch out for the truck. Very aerobatic. Wow, that is awesome, guys. That is awesome. I am going to like this a lot. Yeah, the Expo does feel a little, it does make the controls a bit soft, so I think I'm going to dial them down a little bit before I put the next battery pack in it. Look at that big loop. That is awesome. Sweet. Yeah, this is definitely a high performance sport glider, even on a 3S. Look at that. Whoa, don't get too low to the ground. Oh man, that is cool. Very, very cool. Hey, it did a stall turn pretty well, didn't it? Sweet. Awesome, awesome sport glider. Wow. I can hear this thing cutting through the air from a long way away. Yeah, this would be absolutely insane on a 4S. Awesome. Carries a lot of momentum, a lot of energy with it. What do you guys think? I told you I'm in awe of these sport gliders. These are just absolutely fantastic to fly. Okay. Let's see if we can bring it down on the road. Alright, and I'm gliding. Oh, I think I just lost one of my skids. I think I saw something pop off of it. Oh. I was debating whether or not, I lost both of my little skids. I was debating whether or not to put a couple of little wheels on this. I think I'm at least going to have to put a wheel on the front of it. But came down nice and smooth. Maybe I'll tractor it a little bit next time. From what I've been told, tractoring it will slow it down a little bit more. And it looks to me like you've got enough room there for some barn door flaps. So I may actually end up putting some barn door flaps on this to slow it down even more. But awesome performance, even on a 3S. Man, that has got some power to it, doesn't it? Did you see how quickly it would climb vertically? A double vertical roll and then a split S maneuver, no problem whatsoever. This thing's got tons of power. Absolutely awesome. All right, so that was just the maiden flight, guys. Not a bad performance for a maiden flight. The setup felt really good, except for the expo. I thought the controls felt a little soft, so I'm going to decrease my expo by about half and then put it in the air again. But I will meet you back at the hangar. I give this sport glider a huge thumbs up, man. This is absolutely awesome, especially for the price. And you can run it on 3S or 4S. So I'll see you back at the hangar.
I am so glad I didn't screw that up. Now, I did have kind of a close call. I can't remember if I was coming out of a loop or it must have been a split S maneuver pretty fast with the power off, and I forgot about the ground, taking a pretty sharp rise on the other side of that road, and so I was I wasn't panicky close to it, but a lot closer than I thought I was going to get. But did you see how nice and smooth that came down for a landing? Now, I did lose both of my landing skids, so I am definitely going to be putting a wheel, a small wheel under the fuselage, at least there, maybe on the tail too, because even though it's got pretty good sized wing protectors on it, there's so many ditches and trenches and stuff in that ground out there. I know you can't see it very well on video, but believe me, it's there. And so when the plane came to rest, even with the wing protector holding the main wing up, the side of the horizontal stabilizer was scraping on the ground. So I think I'm going to need to raise up the tail as well as putting a wheel on the front of it. But I did have my expo set too high. The controls felt fairly soft during the maiden flight, so I did put it in the air one more time. I couldn't resist, but I didn't want to put it in the air any more than that until I get a decent landing skid or landing wheel system installed on it, because I don't want to tear it up. And believe me, that ground out there will tear it up very quickly. So I did put it in the air again after that. I did cut my expo on my ailerons and my elevator from 35% to 25%, and cut down the expo on the rudder from 25% to 20%. Now, I'm going to, I like the control surface movement. Everything felt really good, but I think I want to put a little more movement on the ailerons for a little faster roll rate. So I think I'm going to go from 15mm to 18mm on the ailerons. On the elevator, I think I'm going to add at least a couple millimeter more movement, maybe from 10mm to 12mm, because I like having a little more elevator in reserve in case I need it. And out of the 3 sport gliders that I have flown so far, this one has performed the best stall turn right out of the bat. I'm going to see if I have the clearance on the elevator to put about 22 millimeters worth of movement into the rudder. Right now it's at 18. To see if I can get it to spin a little more quickly on the stall turn, but I was highly impressed with the initial stall turn that this did. And it has tons of power on the 3S. And it's going to be insane on the 4S, but I am definitely going to be putting a 4S LiPo in it. If not on the second review flight video, then on the third one. But you know, I started looking at the components that came with this plane, and it has a 30 amp speed controller in it, and I thought, and it's rated for a 3S or a 4S. Well, maybe you need maybe the motor is, but I thought a 30 amp speed controller for that size motor and that size prop, I don't think that's going to work. So I put a load meter on it. I put a load meter on it with a fully charged 3S LiPo, and I ran it up at full throttle. And it only pulled 17.9 amps at full throttle on the 3S. So I thought, that's looking pretty good. So I put a fully charged 4S LiPo on it, and at full throttle on a 4S LiPo it was pulling 25.6 amps. So you got quite a bit of headroom there on that 30 amp speed controller. That really surprised me. So that motor must have a lot of torque to be able to spin that prop on a 4S LiPo and only pull 25.6 amps. So I was really happy about that. Let me see. I'm trying to think of where their recommended CG was. Let me see. Okay, so the recommended CG on this is 57 millimeters to 71 millimeters from the leading edge of the wing. So I set my CG right in the center of that. I set my CG at 64 millimeters from the leading edge of the wing, and when I balance it on my fingers at 64 millimeters, I have my battery positioned so that it is completely neutral position, meaning that it stays completely level when I balance the plane at 64 millimeters from the leading edge of the wing. And I really like that. I think that is spot on. When with a neutral balance, it has a very nice flat glide slope to it. So when I was bringing this in, it practically landed itself. I didn't put a single click of trim into it during the whole flight. As a matter of fact, I didn't put a single click of trim into it during the second flight either. I was just having so much fun, and we had a little bit of wind out there, so I will have to check exactly how it tracks, you know, when I can take it out with a little less wind and then do any adjustments on trim that I need to do. But if there's going to be any trim required, it certainly isn't going to be much. And I was really surprised. This is the first plane that I've had where when I powered it up, because everything's ready to go, it's bind and fly, you know, all the control surfaces and everything were set up. So this is the first plane that I have bound up to that when I had the stick centered, almost all the control surfaces were in a completely neutral position, and all of the control arms on the servo seemed to be pretty well in the centered position. The only thing that I had to adjust was the elevator. There was quite a bit, when the stick was centered, there was quite a bit of up elevator on the plane, so I had to disconnect the linkage on the elevator and run the clevis in quite a bit to get the elevator in a completely neutral position. But it performs extremely well. It has very tight axial rolls. It has a very nice flat glide slope. It's easy as heck to launch. I didn't have a single problem. I launched it on a 3S at 70% throttle. It took right off. It didn't even lose any altitude when I let go of it. When I'm speeding up, it seems to maintain its attitude very, very well. It's not climbing, it's not diving. So I've got all the control surfaces in a completely neutral position. When I have the stick centered, they're all in a neutral position, and that looks to me like that's exactly where they need to be. So awesome glider. I want to thank him again for contributing to this project, to this review. I'm so happy that I did not screw this up, at least not on the maiden flight. There's always time to screw it up later, but I'm extremely happy with it. Okay, so all I need to do is change. I've got everything at 100% on the dual rate. So I need to modify my control linkage on all the control surfaces and get those mechanically trimmed to neutral again before I take it back out again, get a wheel underneath the front of it, and it'll be ready to throw in the air again. So I want to see, before I do anything else with the Expo, I want to see how it feels once I increase the movement on all the control surfaces. I may not need to change the Expo again once I do that, but I won't know until I put it back in the air. So as soon as I can get that done, this thing is going back in the air very quickly. Awesome, awesome plane. I absolutely love it. And these aerobatic sport gliders, man, if you've never experienced one, you gotta go fly one. Completely different experience. This is one heck of a flying roller coaster. Absolutely love it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the air.